Hello, people. My name is James Williams Jr. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. So, I did the black color wheel. I got off on a tangent, went a little crazy. So now I'm going to do the Asian color wheel. I'm not going to include Native Americans in this, since Native Americans scientifically and biologically are Asian. I'm not going to include them in this. I will specifically be talking about the bigger Asian countries versus the smaller Asian countries, and the Asian color wheel of this is probably the darkest color of an Asian person. Maybe this down here, but not counting Native Americans, which means I won't be in this category. Plus, I'm also part black. So, that being said, let us begin. In an earlier video, as I said, I was told this by an Asian person, so please don't be mad, and please don't be mad at me, and try not to take this shit the wrong way. But let me state it again. I was told this by an Asian person. I don't know if they were fucking with me. So, again, don't take this shit the wrong way. Okay, so as I said, there's a black color wheel where you go at least 14 colors, maybe 15. For an Asian color wheel, we're going to sum it down to maybe 4, with my skin tone being the darkest. Alright, which means if you fall into this category, you're either full Samoan or full Polynesian, however you want to call yourself, or you just live in a very sunny area. Alright, so let's start with supposedly the darkest of Asian colors who are closely related to my skin tone down here and not my true skin tone up here, which is high yellow, because they get lighter than this. So we're starting with Polynesians and Samoans. Most of them are between this color and this color, right? And unless they're mixed, like my wrestling idol Roman Reigns and one of my acting idols, The Rock and Jason Momoa. So unless they're mixed, they generally tend to be quite fully tan. Alright? So you're going with Samoans and Filipinos, depending on which range of the Philippines and the Samoan Islands and the Polynesian Islands in which they come from. Because most of them are this color or this color. Again, unless they're mixed. Now, The Rock is like my color because he's got black in him. Now, as far as Roman Reigns, he's got a little white in him. Because he looks more like a white man like Jason Momoa, who has a little white in him. Now, and hopefully I'm saying that right, and if they don't have white in them, I don't know what part of Samoa they're from, but hey, more power to you. Anyway, that being said, Polynesians, Samoans, Vietnamese, and Laos are kind of more of the darker tanned Asians. Please, someone Asian, fact check this shit, confirm this shit for me, because like I said, an Asian person told me this shit, so yeah, I'm really sketchy on this video, which is why it's probably not going to be really long. Alright, now, when you started getting into the lighter Asians, I guess, depending on how far you go, because Mongolians, they manifest differently depending on what part of Mongolia they live in, because some of them are down here, some of them are up here, because Mongolians also, as I said in another video, basically Native Americans came out of that region. Now, more towards Tibetan and Chinese, they're exceptionally kind of light. Again, it depends on their region and if they're like full-blooded Chinese, not like people who are mixed with Mongolians, like Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan and all of them. Original Chinese, people of the Hun, like before the Hun or whatever the hell. You guys know what the hell I'm talking about if you're Chinese, because I'm totally butchering this whole damn thing. So then you get to lighter and lighter. So Koreans are fairly light, unless they're born and raised in America where tanning is the thing. But most of them are fairly light to an extent where, Japanese are fairly light too. Yes, you see me pulling hair off my arm. I do not like body hair. Okay. Plus I get to shave all the crap off. Well, anyway, the whole thing is that you have different skin tones in the Asian color wheel, just like you have different skin tones in the black color wheel. I can't really give the Asians more than maybe 4 or 5 skin tones because their skin tones change like everybody else is just environmentally sound. You know. Now the reason I make this video is because I'm gonna say some stereotypical shit, people. So brace yourself, cause here it comes. To average people who don't have trained eyes, all Asians look alike, which causes a big ass clusterfuck when you talk to somebody whose last name is Kim versus somebody whose last name is Lee. Alright? I know Koreans just went batshit crazy with that because Lee and Kim are interchangeable with Korea and China. Look at the location, people, and you'll see why. And it's the same thing where if you talk to somebody whose name is Fujiwara or Ito or Nakamura or Hoshi, those are more Japanese names because those are traditional, or there's a conglomerate of those names that are Japanese. Nakamura, Takanaka, Tanaka. Most of the time, if they have either 3 letters, it can be different for Chinese and Japanese. But if they're like into like the 7 letters last names, as far as I know, those are mostly Japanese. Vietnam last names are kind of weird for me. I don't see a lot of them, and I know we have a lot of Vietnam people here. One of my favorite professors, that he wasn't a personal professor, he didn't teach me anything, but we talked a lot. His name was Professor Yu from the university. He's cool as hell. But yeah, you know, the last names is the only way that I can mostly get it right. All right, and I say that because sometimes Kims and the Lees and the Cheese are actually Korean and not Chinese. I know for sure that Ho is also interchangeable. Ho and O are interchangeable with Chinese and Korean too, because like on that borderline thing, and a lot of Lees, Chens, Chows, Changs, Zangs, some that has a little like 6 letters that I can't pronounce, but they also start with like a G, not like Gaos, because those are also Chinese, I believe. I could be wrong. That might also be Korean, but those last names that I mentioned that hopefully are or are not interchangeable with people. Now, Judge Lance Ito from Japan, technically, but he's American, who did the O.J. Simpson trial. You know, his name's Judge Lance Ito. As far as I know, Ito, Edo, Fujiwara, Nakamura, Tanaka, Takahoshi, Hoshi, I forgot the one with the Y, I can't pronounce it, but a lot of those are Japanese last names. So if I'm meeting someone for the first time that's Asian, I don't want to bring up their last name, but it's the only way that I can really tell them apart because they all look alike to the untrained eye. Now, after you get to know a couple of Asian people, I have a Vietnamese friend whose last name was Vu, so he was Vietnamese, and I didn't know the difference. And then he kind of explained to me, well, there are certain names that are interchangeable, that are just Asian all around the fucking board, and then there are certain names that are specifically for that ethnic area of that ethnic country. Does that make sense to y'all? Why does this have to do with the color wheel? Because before I learned this, I just thought everybody was from China. Because China is one of the most populated countries that you hear about. And for those who are old enough to remember Tiananmen Square, you know, a lot of shit went down that year. You know, but most of it was in China. And a lot of people who are older who remembers Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that means you're old as hell. And if you actually lived through that, you know, World War II, then that's when we knew about Japan. You know, we mostly know about China through Bruce Lee and Jet Li and Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. You know he was coming in there because he's one of my favorite martial artists. And then you have Russell Wong for America and Tony Jaa from Thailand, or is he Taiwan? Whatever. And then everybody remembers Tom Powell or Tom Poe, who beat the shit out of Van Damme, and Van Damme beat the shit out of him, and all the other shit in the kickboxers movies and stuff like that. But you get where I'm going. Bolo Yangi. Yangi is probably not said right, so forgive me for that, Bolo. He's also one of my favorite martial artists. Really big burst guy. But, you know, you sit there and you're like, okay, well, how do you tell them apart? You ask them, all right? just be brave and just ask them. Because, like, Ling, I didn't know that Ling was a Chinese name until Lucy Liu brought it up. Or Lisa Ling brought it up when she was on The View. So it's like, okay. And I'll always have a crush on Lisa Ling. Even though she's married with children now, she has been my favorite. Her and Juju Chang and um, Julia Chen, and then there's Joan Chen, and let's not forget Connie Chung. Okay, so you see where I'm going with that? With these names, those ones that I just named, Juju Chen, Julie excuse me, Juju Chang, Lisa Ling, I forgot her sister's name, but I know her last name is Ling, and Connie Chung, these women are all of Chinese descent. Right? I know this because they've actually said that they were Chinese during certain interviews or whatever. I've always had a crush on Juju Chang too. And let's not leave off my favorite one from MTV, Sari Park. Not Sari Park, sorry, that's a golf player. Su Yang Park. Anyway, the chick from MTV, like the first Asian video disc jockey or whatever her name was. Her last name is Park though. Su Jin Park. Anyway, I love her too, but she's married with children too. So those fantasies are gone. And let's not forget Kelly Hu is Hawaiian, but I believe she's of Chinese descent. So we're going with that. But as you know, with them, I don't like offending people. So I would first be like, look, I don't want to offend you, but I need to ask this so that I don't offend you, or so that I don't misidentify you ethnically. I don't want to call you Japanese if you're Chinese. You know what I mean? Now, honestly, a lot of them probably just don't give a damn. It's like we don't have all damn day. So, like they said in King of the Hill with Mr. Stanton Newton Pond, Khan's dad, Khan Jr. Let's just go with that. But technically, Khan is a Mongolian last name, but it's also an American last name, just like Lee. Only I think Khan in America isn't spelled with a K. I think it's spelled with a C. However, I think the chick that played Natalie on The Facts of Life, I think she spelled hers Khan too, like they do in Mongolia and China. But the thing is that they have a color wheel. And so, depending on your region of Asia in which you're from, also determines your skin tone. Tibet is fairly cold. I don't know if they even get a summer in Tibet, but I know they have great robes. I met the Dalai Lama once, back in the good days of my life when things were not going too bad, when I was having one of those brief moments of clarity. Anyway, before my life turned into a train wreck and a big ass clusterfuck. Anyway, the color wheel for Asians are a little bit different than the color wheel for blacks because Asians don't vary as much as blacks. They have maybe 4 skin tones, where blacks have at least 14 skin tones because of range and region. And I'm not going to swear to it, I don't think white people really have a color wheel. I'm not saying this to be racist towards white people. I'm not trying to leave them out of the color wheel scheme, but I don't think they have one. I don't know enough white people, I guess, to ask if there's a color wheel. Is there a difference? Now, when it comes to white people, they treat each other just as bad as they treat black people sometimes. And not all white people, but it's enough hatred to go around. No. And we all need to stop the hatred and the color wheel hatred stuff. Because, like I said, I'm sure that the Asians had the same issue because they all had an issue with Japan at one time. Then they had an issue with China. Then they had an issue with Singapore. And the Singapore caning of that white kid that threw stop signs through people's car windows and shit. And then there was an issue with Vietnam and Korea. So I don't know how it works for them. I do know that China and Japan had the biggest rivalry, and even when China was occupied by Japan, Japan did a whole lot of evil stuff to them, and it's still unacceptable. But it's not so much as a passerby thing. But I will say this: I think that if like you meet Asians in Canada compared to Asians from wherever they are, they tend to not have hatred towards immigrants from Japan and China and other Asian countries. They all seem to get along great in Canada. I don't know why they couldn't get along great in their own regions, but In case you want to know, let me explain that before I piss off everyone that I just mentioned. Because this video is now getting a two-parter. So, when I went to China, excuse me, didn't go to China. When I went to Canada, I met people of different ethnic backgrounds, right? So I was in Canada with the wheelchair basketball team, and we had to go to a Chinese restaurant, and they great food. And then the next day, when we went to the Atobichoke gym, there was not a team from China, but there were multiple teams with Asian people in it. There was a young lady who was of Asian descent. I do not know exactly which Asian descent, but she was in a wheelchair, and she was cool as hell. And she had explained to me that, when you immigrate over here, it kind of doesn't matter where you came from. When you meet other Asians, it's like there's no wall of hate and regret. So basically, she was telling me if she's Japanese, she can talk to Chinese people and they won't be like, oh, I fucking hate you because you're Japanese and what your country did to my country, etc., etc. But when they all go to Canada, whether they're Chinese, Japanese, or Korean, they seem to get along better than when they were in their own respective countries. But if you're of that descent and you're born over there in Canada, they all tend to get along. There's plenty of Canadians that are Korean. There are plenty of Canadians that are Japanese. There are plenty of Canadians that are Samoans, and there are all kinds of different Asian ethnic backgrounds. Even Asians with the dots, not the feathers, and there are First Nations people up there. So the color wheel thing for them works a little bit differently. Diversity on location, I guess, is what you would call it. Because I met a security guard. I want to say that she was Korean, but I didn't get her last name. So I don't know. She might have been Chinese because I think her last name might have been Kwon or Kwok Su or some shit like that. It had a K in it, okay? And she treated me very well. I'm pretty sure she wasn't sure what the fuck I was, so that might have been part of it. But I did go to a Korean store, and they treated me very well. I'm pretty sure they didn't know what the fuck I was. I still have the mousse that they gave me. It was like $2, and I didn't even pay for it. They like, here, take it. I was like, I have money. I'll pay for it. And he's like, no, you're gonna take it. So I didn't know what that was about, but I did not want to not take it because I was more than willing to pay for it. But they insisted that I take it for free, and I'm like, who the hell do they think I am? But they wouldn't take the money. So then I went and bought extra stuff because they wouldn't take the money for the fucking mousse. It was like, it's a little smaller than this. It's like one of the things you would clamp on a pencil. But they wouldn't take the money. They would not take my money for that fucking mousse. The damn thing was like $3. I was like, yeah, let me pay for the mousse. It's like, well, we're not gonna charge you for the mousse. I was like, but it's an item in your store. I want to buy it, and they wouldn't let me buy the mousse. They just gave it to me. So every day I come back, I buy stuff. It's like, why are you always shopping here? I said, well, y'all wouldn't let me pay for the mousse. I figured you'd let me pay for something else. And they did. And they didn't have a problem with it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. But every time I've gone to that store, they've always treated me great. And it's like, so either they think I'm like a Native American or they think I'm part Korean or something. I couldn't figure out, but they were just all around polite people. I have gotten discounts. I don't know why. I have gotten discounts at certain Asian places when I went to go buy food there. Because I went to Canada again and again, and each time we stayed at different hotels. But every time we stayed at a hotel, if there was an Asian restaurant in walking distance, that's where I'd go eat. And unless there was like pancakes, because the Canadian pancakes were like fucking huge, man. It's like they covered the whole goddamn plate. Like, this would be the pancake. They had like the long oval plates, but this would be the size of your pancake. But it would be in an oval. It would cover the whole plate. And you would wind up taking them home. Because if you could get through all three of them, you're a badass. So, when we get the pancakes, we get the pancakes. And they're just like, you want 3 pancakes? And I was like, how big are the pancakes if you're only serving us 3 pancakes? Because I wanted 6 pancakes. And then Rick was like, no you don't. It's like, but I'm hungry. Bring him 3 pancakes. So they brought me 3 pancakes. Those motherfuckers were huge. And they weren't thick. They were thin pancakes cooked to fucking perfection with that little husk of butter on it. They were fucking huge. And I looked at him and said, these are mega pancakes. I'm glad I only got 3 of them. And you know, instead of trying to eat one at a time, I tried to do the black thing. I cut down the middle and tried to eat like all 3 at one time. And I'm sitting here and like I didn't even get through one full pancake. I got through half a pancake and I was full. He's like, well, you can take it home. We have doggy bags. I said, yes, please. I will take this pancake home and finish it there. It took almost 2 hours to eat those 3 pancakes because they were so big. And I was like, wow, I've never had pancakes that big before. I don't want pancakes that big ever again. But when I went to like Asian restaurants, I guess they may have thought I was Hawaiian or Filipino or whatever. Maybe they thought I was First Nations, but I got discounts on my food there. So thank you to those restaurants. One next to the Delta Hotel and it's next to the Delta Airport. Thank you. Thank you very much because I got like some serious badass dumplings. They tasted fucking awesome. And normal price was like maybe $7. I paid like 4. I don't know how that worked, but the menu said it was $7. Well, maybe it was because I used American money. But whatever it was, I got change back. And so I was like, wow. You know, and my trips to Canada have been awesome. I miss Canada. I love Canada. If I could work in Canada on films, I would gladly take the job. Anyway, that being said, as I close this out, for the Asian color wheel, it does exist, but I don't think it's more of a color wheel. I think it's more of like a regional wheel. Now, I'm not saying this for Asians in America or in South America. If there's any Asians down there, I have no idea. But for Asians in Canada, this color wheel does not count to any of them. But like for Japan, China, Tibet, Korea, North and South, and Vietnam, North and South, and Mongolia. This color wheel in Polynesia and Samoa. This color wheel does exist. I don't know if it's as rugged or as rough as the black color wheel towards each other, but it does exist. I have to do more research on that. But if you're Asian and you know about this color wheel and it works out like it does for black people, let me know. I have also seen Chinese people and Vietnamese people not get along and argue, and I couldn't understand what the fuck was going on because apparently they did have a universal language over there where they all speak it, so it must have been Mandarin or something. But they were arguing, and I'm like, wow, I didn't think Asians argue. I learned a lot from some Asian friends of mine because, again, my Asian friend who I lost a bet to about Native Americans being Asian, he would teach me stuff. His dad was a preacher, by the way, and he was like, yeah, Asians beat their kids. That's why they behave so well. Because they have 2 options. Like, look, first, don't disgrace the family. And second, I will beat you. I did not know that Asians did that until my friends told me that shit. So now that I know, now I know why Asian kids are so well behaved. And we should take a page from them and start beating our kids more. I mean, spanking. I'm James Williams Jr. This is Kung Fu Habit number 2. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm going to be off. I'm making videos for like the next couple of hours because I want to read my graphic novel, watch Legion, and study, and then possibly type my graphic novel. I definitely got to study though. I'm James Williams Jr. Kung Fu Habit number 2. Peace, see you.